A World War II naval aviator with the Japanese Imperial Navy 201st Regiment, Sugiura Shigemine. This name resonates in the minds and hearts of the people of Japan and Taiwan. In Taiwan, Sugiura Shigemine, this name, he's also known as飞虎将军, Flying Tiger General of General Tiger, Flying Tiger. So Sugiura Shigemine, he was born on the 9th of November 1923 in Mito in Ibaraki Prefecture in Japan. So he enlisted to join the Japanese Imperial Navy Air Force, and he was sent to Kasumigaura Air Base for training.
For the combined operations necessary for her Pacific conquests, Japan subordinated air and naval units to ground forces. The chief function of the Navy, even when Japan held the offensive, was to act as a troop and supply carrier and escort. The Japanese military thought of fighting in terms of land action. The Navy had the independently important function of protecting home waters and communication lines. Even so, it was not expected to seek full-dress naval action. There have been no signs of a separate strategic air force. The Japanese Army Air Service is an integral part of the Army, while the Japanese Naval Air Service has its own organization under Navy auspices. Despite many defeats by Allied air power, the Japanese air services showed great recuperative strength.
And after graduation, he was then sent on to join the Air Force based out in Taiwan itself. So in Taiwan, at the time, Taiwan was actually under the Japanese rule, so Taiwan was known as Formosa. So a key point in history during World War II will be the Battle of Formosa, which happened during the 12th to the 14th of October in 1944. So the Battle of Formosa is the test of strength between the Japanese Imperial Navy plane or aviator fighters versus the US Third Fleet. Sadly, it's a huge massacre on the Japanese part. It ended with an overwhelming American victory and crippled most of the Japanese naval power. So there were 203 Japanese fighter planes sent out for the Battle of Formosa, and that is against obviously the US Third Fleet. The ratio is 3-2, so 3 Japanese fighter planes to the American ones. So unfortunately for most of the Japanese, they're all really young aviator pilots, so they were not really experienced in terms of air power, and due to lack of fuel, only they had minimal training before being sent out to fight for Japan. So 1/3 of the Japanese fighters were lost in the first round, and most of them were killed in the second round by the US Third Fleet. So the third round was, totally unopposed at all for the American Army. So on the morning of October the 12th, 1944, at about 7:19 in the morning, Sugiura Shigemine took to the skies and flew in the first round and to fight against the Allied power. Sadly, within 20 minutes of him in flight, his aircraft was shot down. So he was flying that time the Mitsubishi Model 32 fighter. That's quite an important plane in terms of Japan's military history.
See that plane? Climbing to heaven like a skyrocket? Heaven's the wrong destination for that baby. That's a Zero, the real McCoy. You can recognize her again? Let's make sure. This is the Japanese Zero. Take a good look at her.
In terms of all the different ranges of Zero fighters. So the Mitsubishi A6-3M, the 32 Zero, is actually quite popular because later on they will be used for the kamikaze flights that obviously happened in Pearl Harbor, as well as the Battle of Iwo Jima. But in this case, it's the Battle of Formosa. So poor Sugiura was flying his Model 32 Zero fighter, and he was shot down. So the aircraft was, belching flames and, smoke. And he was actually heading down towards this village settlement in around in Annan district in Tainan. At that time, this village settlement is quite small, but their main primary source of income is the fish ponds in the area as well, because Annan district in Tainan is actually by the water, or practically, the whole of Taiwan or Formosa is surrounded by, a body of water. But the main source of income for these villages is the fish ponds. So Sugiura, being such a hero himself, he was actually trying to avoid hitting the village as well as the fish ponds in the area. So one of the many locals who vividly recall actually seeing the plane coming down in flames said he could have easily just parachuted out, and crashing that plane, but he didn't. He actually, in his last attempt, pulled, the controls back to push up the nose of the plane and landed in the nearby fields, missing the whole village and the fish pond. So the people in the village were safe. Nothing was killed. The fish ponds were fine. So there's no stop in terms of, their livelihood was still there. So another remembers seeing Sugiura's actually mangled body at the site where his plane went down. And they said, it was barely beyond recognition, riddled in bullet wounds and holes. The aircraft was purely mangled. The only thing that they could use to identify him was the name Sugiura written on his boots. That's the only recognizable part that was left of this aviator, and his body parts were then repatriated back to Mito in Ibaraki Prefecture in Japan. Sugiura Shigemine gave his life to save the villages of Tainan in Annan district, and he was only 20 years old. It's really young. His birthday is the 9th of November. He went down on 12th of October. He hasn't even reached his 21st. 20 years after the war or the Battle of Formosa, and most of the Japanese or all of the Japanese military power would have left Formosa or Taiwan at that time. The villagers who survived this, or who were saved actually by Sugiura, claim to have seen an apparition of some sort, like a young person, a young bloke, dressed in white with a white cap, full white uniform, white shoes, was seen lingering around the fields where his the 032 fighter have gone down. Some of the villagers actually had dreams of these this particular vision of this person. They've consulted a medium or a monk, a priest in the nearby temples, and it came to fruition that it might be Sugiura Shigemine's spirit who's still lingering around the area where his 32 fighter has gone down. So the villagers have deliberated and decide to erect or build a little shrine in his honor in 1971. So later on in 1933, a bigger, nicer little temple is erected in Annan district in Tainan in his honor. So they moved to a bigger spot, not much bigger, but it was a nicer structure altogether. What's really rare about this Zhenan Temple in Annan district in Tainan is that only one deity is enshrined in this temple. So usually the Taoist temples in Taipei, in Taiwan, they usually have a pantheon of different gods under the roof. Obviously there's one main deity like Mazu, but then there'll be other deities in the area like San and Hu Ye and Hu Jiangjun. But like what I said, like Matu might be the main deity in this temple, but it'll be peppered with, you know, the others. Like for Matu, she'll always have the left and right, her guards, like Qili Yan and Shunfeng and then you know, there might also be San Taizi or Lianhua Taizi. There might also be, you know, Tu Di Gong and the Huye Jiangjun as well. But this particular temple, the Zhenan Temple in Annan district in Taiwan, it's only dedicated to just one deity, and for this particular one deity, what's also rare is a Japanese naval aviator. So this whole temple is dedicated to Sugiura Shigemine, the Feihu Jiangjun, or Flying Tiger General. So people, you know, this temple has its own barrage, a steady stream of worshippers and devotees of Sugiura Shigemine, and the devotees come to give thanks, respect, praying for lost items, good health, for family and friends, also for good results for exams or entrance exams for children and you know, school kids and university school exams, as well as seeking guidance in life. But strangely, the only thing that that wasn't you know, prayers were not answered were for wealth. So he would never provide any answers or any, you know, lucky numbers or any you know, ways of how you can earn money, but more about losing, you know, lost items, health, and protection of the family members and friends, and entrance exam result marks, as well as guidance in life. So every morning in this little Zhenan temple, cigarettes were actually lighted, and in Zhenan temple there's one main Sugiura deity, a big effigy guarded by two smaller special ones that they use for you know, if they need to travel around or pilgrimages and things like that. So there'll be three Sugiura Shigemine temple effigies, and they will light up 3 cigarettes as a mark of respect and worship, and it's an offering every morning, whilst the Japanese national anthem Kimigayo actually plays. So the reason why they offer cigarettes to these 3 effigies of Sugiura or Feihu Jiangjun is that cigarettes were the only indulgence allowed for these poor Japanese aviators during World War II. Cigarettes were, you know, a form of indulgence for them, because that's the only thing they are allowed to have to calm their nerves before flying, or you know, even in terms of when it was the kamikaze flights in Pearl Harbor, they were all offered one last cup of sake before they fly off, to boost, you know, their morality and their 精神, and you know, to give them the extra boost before they go off and fly, knowing that it will be their last flight and they will be going in death, but will be going in honor as well. So they were offered cigarettes every morning with the Japanese anthem playing, and in the evening the Japanese naval military anthem will be played in the temple as well, and this happens every day. So in about 2015, funds were being raised to build a Mikoshi vessel. So a Mikoshi vessel is like a Japanese tiny little shrine, and it could sit in a little effigy or god of some sort. And this can be used to travel in pilgrimages, and devotees could come out onto the streets to worship and pray and welcome the god into their village or hometown or country. So in 2015, funds were raised and a Mikoshi, a special one, was built for Sugiura Shigemine,飞虎将军, to travel from Tainan back to his hometown in Mito, in Ibaraki prefecture. And this little Mikoshi shrine housed the main Sugiura Shigemine effigy, as well as a little gold structure or model of the 032 fighter plane that he actually flew. And in 2016, this Mikoshi went on the pilgrimage all the way, with faithful devotees following him throughout the way, from Tainan all the way back to Mito, Ibaraki prefecture. Upon arrival in Mito, in Ibaraki prefecture, Sugiura Shigemine, Feihu Jiangjin, Flying Tiger General, is given a hero's worship and welcome that he so deserved for giving his life, only 20 years old, on the 12th of October 1944 in Formosa, Taiwan.